Every time that I see a new horror movie, I find myself asking the exact same question. Are horror films just not frightening anymore? I mean, seriously, think about the last time that you actually got frightened by a horror film. It might have taken you a while to find an answer to your question. But is this a problem with us as people, or just a problem with the medium that we all seem to enjoy for some strange reason? It's not like they have become unenjoyable even. I still find myself enjoying lots of them, but would I say I have been scared by any of them? Most likely not. Films by companies like Blumhouse might get a short-term scare out of me with their overuse of jump scares and cheap tactics, but would I actually call the films themselves frightening? No. The last film that I can really think about being frightened by was most likely Ari Aster's Hereditary. The second half of the film was unlike anything I'd ever seen before, almost exactly after the point of the car accident, and had me drawn in, frightened about what could possibly happen next. And thinking back upon the film, the ideas of it still give that off feelings that come with actually scary things, a high bar for films to reach it seems now. But before I used to find many things scary, I remember I used to be terrified of The Blob after watching the 1988 remake where the monster comes out of the sink, making the idea of doing things like the dishes to me absolutely fucking terrifying to me as a kid, as well as Paul's death in the film had me subconsciously checking the ceilings for a monster that could possibly jump me at any given moment. But that was also when I was really young, so maybe I just grew out of it. But all these questions made me take a step back and ask myself, are the films themselves not scary anymore? Or have I just outgrown being frightened by horror films? But before I try to answer that, before I go any further, make sure that if you are new to the channel to like and subscribe for future uploads, as I upload once a week. Also let me know whether or not you agree with my thoughts in the video. Also, all opinions on here are my own. This is all just opinions, nothing more. Don't take this too seriously. It's just a fun little video I made. Okay, let's continue. I think when it comes to horror, we find they generally can be found in three categories: tight-paced thrillers, unrelenting horror, and slow burns. With one of my absolute favorite examples of the tight-paced thriller variety being Sinister. Okay, now let's talk Sinister. I saw Sinister around the age of 13, and while at that age I was starting to find a lot of the films that had scared me when I was younger just didn't have the same effect on me as they used to. And it had been quite a while at that point before a film had really gotten to me. Which actually leads me to somewhat of a conclusion that maybe this isn't something I've outgrown, and more so something that I just haven't seen something in a while that's really gotten to me. But I wouldn't really hold that against the films themselves, because something that could get me might not get anyone else, or something that gets everyone else might not get me. But Sinister just really bugged me. The music in every scene really was chilling, with the usage of Boards of Canada throughout being really a highlight, because it builds this demonic, almost industrial atmosphere to the film, like these families are just cogs in this evil machine. The way the scares are set up is also good, with the lawnmower scare obviously being the standout of the film through and through. And the atmosphere of the film is just unrelenting up to the ending, which isn't great, but that's besides the point, with you wondering what could possibly be in the next possible tape, or how it could get any worse than what we have seen already. There's just something about the raw brutality of the Super 8 film that makes it just so much more unsettling in comparison to a lot of the other films that I had seen up to that point, as it really feels like you are stumbling upon some sort of fucked up snuff film in someone's attic, not some Hollywood horror blockbuster that makes everything feel unreal to the point of boredom. Now, do I think this is a perfect film? No, not by any means, but it was able to stick with me more than a lot of the other stuff that was coming out around the same time, and the film is heavily flawed. The ending is cliche-ridden, and it's a mess that almost ruins the film and turns it, in parts, straight up comical, and in others so unbelievable that it can cause you to lose interest in what you are seeing. But up to that point in the film has an extremely tight pace that doesn't let you go throughout, just continuously fucking with you throughout instead of being in an ultra slow burn. And that's not to say that slow burn films are bad. Don't misinterpret that, but it does make a difference in scare factor when the film just continuously beats you down in the way that Sinister is able to do. But not much happens in Sinister in comparison to another film that I found scary, which is of course Balaguero's and Plaza's horror film Wreck. And sorry if I completely butchered their names, but it falls extremely within the unrelenting horror category, and it's a zombie film that doesn't let up for any of its runtime. No, seriously, this film does not let you go at all throughout. Something is always happening on screen to the point of it almost being overwhelming, and I mean this in the best possible way. The film is able to overwhelm your senses in ways that many other films just aren't able to do, and effectively uses the found footage format in the best possible way, making it so that you have no point of safety that you would find in many other films, which for many other films is the screen itself. With Rec, you are essentially dropped in the film. You are the cameraman, one of the characters in the story, allowing the film to make you feel like you are trapped in the apartment complex with them, as every single thing that could go wrong goes wrong. The film also quickly sets up that not a single person within the building is safe. Any single person could get infected or killed in mere seconds, with people that you think could be the heroes being the first ones infected or flung off railings. Then on the complete opposite side of the triangle is Hereditary, which is of course the slow burn horror film, which horrifies not with what we see, but rather the strings that control all of the lives that we don't see. The main horror of the film isn't shown till the end of it, and upon rewatching the film, it becomes even more clear they have no say in what is going to be happening to them throughout the film, and they are doing exactly what is set up for them to fall into. But it goes across naturally, not like in a way that it would be just like a screenwriting convenience, but more so like everything has been set up for them to be essentially trapped in this horrifying scenario. They think they have control over where their lives are going, but every single step in their lives up to that point has all been leading to this, and as the mystery unravels, we see just how completely surrounded they truly are. It also doesn't help that the creature that they are fighting isn't something that we can ever truly understand within our own world, but rather something so out of this world that doesn't even have physical form whatsoever, pulling the strings from behind till taking full control at the very end. So you may be asking, what do these three films have in common that makes them scary in the first place? And while this is all subjective to my taste and views on horror, I think the realistic feel of all these worlds is what makes the difference for me on whether or not they are actually scary. Every single one of these films is able to drag me into the world that we are seeing, with them setting up something tangible before our very own eyes, with many of the characters behaving in the way that real people would behave if they found themselves caught in the same unfortunate situations that our characters find themselves within. It feels like a lot of the films recently have been trying to focus on being more fun, and that's fine, but for me it just makes them seem like they're way less scary than they could possibly be. This is where a lot of the modern wave fails for me, as a lot of the time they are trying so desperately to crawl their way underneath my skin and really get me to the point where when it fails, it just comes across as desperate. Now you could also argue that I've just become desensitized to the things that I've seen on screen, and that is also probably true. But see, I've watched some films from the past, and they still find ways to get me that a lot of the newer stuff just doesn't get to me in that same way. But it also doesn't help that I think that a lot of the studios truly just don't understand how horror films should actually work because they're trying to make money. Every studio wants their film to be financially successful, and that makes sense. But what makes horror just so interesting is that the genre has to be constantly innovating in order for it to stay truly frightening for the viewer. I mean, think about it. Films like The Exorcist and Halloween are so well known because while they might not exactly be scary now, back then what they were seeing was so fresh and original that audiences really had no idea how to react to what was being shown. The last film I can really think of doing this level of innovation and trickery in the horror genre to an extreme extent was Paranormal Activity, because while the film itself has aged pretty poorly and isn't overall great, the idea behind it really hadn't been seen before, with the cameras filming throughout the house giving a layer of authenticity to the film that others didn't have at the time. What I would also like to add is that does not mean we aren't capable of getting a new, truly frightening and innovative horror film, or that there hasn't already been one. I feel like with a lot of truly great things now, we are shuffling through all the fresh stuff looking for the best of the batch. We always hear about the best horror films of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, but was the quality of the horror films really higher than the ones now? I really don't think so. I just think with time that we have been able to find the best of the batch after years of sorting through all the lesser quality stuff. Right now we seem to be searching for the diamonds in the rough, so while a lot of the stuff like the Blumhouse horror films are just coming out that might actually be hiding some of the best and scariest horror films that we have ever seen. But that could also just be me being hopeful, or it could also be me completely just talking nonsense, but who knows? And that's what makes watching films so fun, is to try and find stuff that actually is innovative and scary while also sorting through stuff that is lesser quality but also still fun in the process. For every Hereditary, there's 10 imaginaries, and it's something that's always just going to be how films are. So in conclusion, do I think that horror films aren't scary anymore? No, actually I don't. While I haven't seen anything recently to make me think that there's a lot of new scary stuff coming out, I could have just not seen it. There are so many horror films coming out every year that there's gotta be one that is scary in there. And also, what is scary is super subjective. What I find scary is not something that someone else would find scary. So I find films like Hereditary and The Babadook to be frightening. Someone else might find those films to be stupid and unscary in every single way. And could I just be desensitized to stuff? Yes, that's also a possibility. But do I think that films have inherently gotten to be lesser quality? No, I do not think that. But for me personally, what I find scary is a mixture of building an extremely believable world that you can get the audience in and then proceeding to trap them in with the danger of the film. Not cheap jump scares or bad writing, but actually meticulously crafting the narrative for the scares rather than around them. And I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you all next week.